Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna be doing some reminiscing again. My daughter was born in 1972, and it was my mother's first granddaughter, which totally torqued off my sister. I think that's what started hatred between her and I. Because Debbie always wanted to be the first one to give Mom a granddaughter. But the instigator started the ball rolling. So I think that's what broke the straw between my sister and me. Anyway, I love my daughter. I ended up, like I said, going to Vietnam according to my Marine Corps thing. But when I came home, my daughter was 13 months old. I went into Lorraine's house, that's my mother-in-law. Got my daughter, got the bicycle, and took off. Spent the day with my daughter. Torqued off Lorraine, naturally. And my daughter and I had a ball. Went to Brewer's Dairy. I introduced Chris to Bernie. Bernie looked at me and, geez, I didn't have any diapers. I didn't have any bottles. Didn't have any food. Didn't have any toys. Nothing. So I told Bernie, I said, well, we'll be right back. Nichols Discount City was diagonal from Brewers. I went into Nichols, found a good diaper bag, filled it with diapers, put in a couple bottles, put in a couple toys that Chris liked, and I just filled the diaper bag up and went back to Bernie's to see Bernie at Brewer's Dairy. Yeah, I stowed everything from Nichols, didn't pay a nickel for it. Well, I got home somewhere around 5:30. The ex, at that time, she was my wife, she was home, real glad to see me, but informed me that Lorraine's pissed off at me because of what I did. Think I cared? I didn't care. Jesus. She's my daughter. Lorraine ain't got no say concerning me and my child. None. Zero. Nothing. Well, years progressed, and we ended up going to Hawaii. My son got, like I told you in that previous video with Rick Tagaferry, Chris raised the devil. Man, she was mad at me because I allowed Corey to fight, but she couldn't. So Chris and I had to go through that ordeal. Well, it came to be when Chris was 15. I don't know what it was about my two kids, but at 14 they discovered what the other sex was for. Well, my daughter discovered boys at 15. She came up to me and she wanted to start dating. And I talked to her about it. We decided, okay, but the rules are dinner. He's got to come over and have dinner with the family. And then while you and Mom are cleaning up, that boy is going to spend 2 hours with me. And then I'll let you know what I think. Well, I don't think Chris cared much for it. But she agreed to it. She knew I was looking out for her welfare. Well, the first person that she came and we had dinner with was a Filipino from the Naval Hospital. Well, he had dinner with us. Him and I talked out on the patio. And after the 2 hours, I went in, laid down on the couch and was watching TV. And I recall about an hour later, the boy left. Chris comes in, stands next to me. Pam's sitting over in the corner. Chris looks at me and goes, "Well?" And I looked at her and I went, "Well?" And she goes, "Well, you gonna let me go out with him?" And I kind of scratched my face a little bit and looked at her with that questionable look in my face. And I went, "Geez, I thought I raised you to stay American." Well, in my family, you can get mad all you want, but you walk away. Think about it, what the other person said, instead of voicing your opinion being mad. Then come back and discuss it. Now that was something that she grew up with. Well, when I said that to her, she looked at me, pure hatred, turned around and went to her bedroom. And about 15 minutes later, she came back and stood next to me, and she popped up and she goes, "Dad, can we talk?" And I looked at her and I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Why'd you say what you said?" Well, Chris, it's like this. Would you rather hear it from me or from somebody that you think is a friend? And she looked at me and she goes, "Huh, yeah." Then you don't mind, do you? "No, I don't care who you date. Jesus, go call the boy." So she went out and called him, and they went out. They went out a couple times. Had a ball. And it happened 4, 5, 6 times. 15, 16, 17. Well, she met this Tom. Tom came over. Dinner, 2 hours. Tom was a corporal in the Marine Corps. Later he got promoted to sergeant. He got out as a sergeant. Him and Chris ended up going cross country to Oregon, but that's a whole different scenario. That was, I think I retarded then when that happened. Anyways, things progressed, and I ended up going down to Jacksonville. I came home one Saturday and Chris is sitting there, we're having dinner, and she looked at me and she goes, "Dad, I got something to tell you." "Yeah, what?" "I had a date last Saturday night, and well, ended up walking home because the guy tried to rape me. I lost it." I looked at her and I went, "What happened?" "Well, he asked me to go out and he came over and I went out with him. But he tried to rape me. Luckily, I got away from him. And I looked over at Pam, who was at the other end of the table. And Pam, I asked Pam, I said, well, did you meet him? Pam didn't answer me. She just looked down at her food. I looked at her and I went, I asked you a question. Did you meet him? Well, come to find out she didn't. I got pissed. I looked at my daughter and told her that she should have been fucking raped. Turned around and walked out and sat out on the patio for about a half hour. Well, my daughter came out and apologized. We talked about it. When you break the rules, things happen. And you just don't break the rules, because you never know what is going to happen and what's not going to happen. But you don't break the rules, especially family rules. Well, anyways, like I said, I was down in Jacksonville, and I was laying on the couch one Friday night, and Chris comes over. My mother-in-law came down, Lorraine. Mother-in-law from hell. She hated me, I guess, from birth to her death. She never had a good word to say to me. But she was sitting in the corner in the living room. I'm laying on the couch. Chris comes up to me. She was over 18. She comes up, and she's been dating Tom now for about a year. And she plops down on my belly. And she goes, we need to talk. And I said, well, what? And she goes, Tom and I are getting serious. Well, what are you doing? Holding on hands? She slapped me. Bam! Right across the cheek. And she goes, Dad, I said serious talk. Okay, you gotta hit me though? And she goes, well, this is serious. Oh. Okay, apparently you're kissing him on the lips and putting your tongue down his throat. Wham! She hit the other side. My God, Chris, you're abusing me. And she goes, no, I want you to be serious. I tell you, Tom and I are getting close. I looked at her. I popped up and I went, well, I think you're telling me that you got an itch. Well, who do you want to scratch it? Tom, Dick, or Harry? Chris, as long as you control the itch. As long as you control the itch. If Tom takes over and he itches you where you don't want to be itched, I'm going to have trouble with Tom, and Tom's going to have trouble with me. As long as you control the itch. Well, Chris bent over, gave me a kiss on the forehead, and went back to her bedroom. Lorraine, oh my God. According to Lorraine, I just gave my daughter permission to have sex with Tom. And I am You've always been a pervert, a oversexed animal. I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't had sex with Chris. Oh my God. When she said that, my daughter overheard her. Came into the living room and just came unglued on her grandmother. And then she looks at me and starts yelling at me. How can you lay there while this bitch is saying what she's saying? Oh my. Chris, you're doing a perfect job. I don't have to say a word. Well, Lorraine got up and left the house. Chris looked at me. The audacity of that woman to even think that, Dad. Chris, I'm going back to Florida. I'm not going to be here when your mother gets here. Because she is going to be pissed. Oh, Mom will be all right. No, she will not. Come here, I'm going to give you a hug and a kiss now because I'm going back to Florida. Well, I gave Chris a hug and a kiss. And I told Chris, I said, you let Corey know when he comes home that I ended up having to go back to Florida because of Lorraine. Well, it wasn't more than 5 minutes later, Pam comes into the room. Oh my God. I couldn't get out of that house quick enough. Somebody unleashed the dragon, because when Pam came home, she filled the whole house. And I went back to Florida. I couldn't take it. I went back to Florida. Well, that Easter, and this is Easter morning, so it happened. It happened this day in 1989. My younger brother Mark and Lil and their 2 kids, Matt and Molly, came down for a vacation. Came down to visit Uncle Gene. Then they arrived Friday. We sat out on the patio, the 4 of us. Chris comes up and we're talking about the weekend, what we're going to do. Well, Chris popped up and said she had a date Saturday night with Tom. Pam looked at Chris and said, well, you call Tom and cancel the date. Excuse me? Pam, Chris is going out with Tom Saturday night. Mark and Lil are our age. Matt and Molly is 10 years younger than that girl. Chris, you're going out with Tom. Don't worry about it. Well, Pam got up and went in the house. She was pissed. And I looked at Lil and just started laughing. Well, Saturday night came. Tom got introduced to Mark and Lil and Matt and Molly. And Tom and Chris took off. 5 o'clock Sunday morning. Jesus. The warden, I've been calling Pam the warden now for a few years because that's exactly what she is. She's a warden. She gets up, wakes everybody up, we're going to the beach. She goes in, takes a shower. Takes a shower before we go to the beach. Enough said on that. So, everybody that's raised with Mom and Dad knows what the rules of the house are. I don't care what family you're in, I don't care where you come from, I don't care the color of your skin. A child is not allowed in the parent's bedroom. We all have that rule. Well, that morning, I'm still in bed. Who is sitting on my bed? My daughter. I looked at her. I'm laying on my back. She's sitting on my bed, telling me she can't go to the beach. Well, Lil gets up. Lil sees what's going on, so she's standing in the doorway. Because she's wondering the same thing. What's Chris doing in your bedroom? Well, Chris informs me that she can't go to the beach. And I inform Chris, you heard what the warden said. You're going to the beach. Dad, I can't go to the beach. Okay, look, if you're on the rag, stuff toilet paper in it, but you're going to the beach. Dad, I can't go to the beach. Oh, gee. Why can't you go to the beach? Because Tom's got the hotel room until 11 o'clock. Wait a minute. You can't go to the beach because Tom's got the hotel room until 11 o'clock. Holy. Hey, what was the best part? Well, Chris proceeded to tell me that I was the biggest pervert in the world and the grandma was right. I informed Chris, I am not a pervert. It is my job as your father to know everything about my children. And it is your duty as a daughter to tell me everything. So what was the best part? Well, she told me doing it in the shower was fun. And I said, okay. Go out, call Tom, have Tom call here, make sure the phone rings 3 times. So the warden will hear it, and just tell the warden that Tom's taking you out for breakfast. And you and Tom go fuck in the room until 11 o'clock. Dad, you think it'll work? Chris, get out of my room. Do what I told you to do. So Chris left. Lil stands in the doorway. And she, did I just hear what I heard? And I looked at Lil and I says, what, that my daughter's a whore and she likes doing it in the shower? Apparently. Well, Lil informed me that there was no way that she could talk like Chris talks to me to her father. And I just looked at Lil and I said, well, you're not close to your dad. You know? Well, anyways, we're getting ready to go to the beach. It's about 6:30. I'm out there. I'm waiting to see Tom. Chris comes up to me and tells us to hurry up and leave. And I just looked at her and I said, I'm not leaving here until I see Tom. Chris goes, Tom does not want to see you. Excuse me? Tom doesn't want to see me. Wrong. Tom is going to see me. Or he's going to spend another $49.95 for a hotel room. Well, about that time, she raised her hand and did this. Tom was parked down the street. Just waiting for us to leave so she could pick up and go. Well, I saw my daughter 20 feet away walk into the house. As Tom was driving in the driveway, my daughter was walking into the house. Tom gets out of the car and started shuffling his feet. Not really walking, just shuffling. And his head was down on his chin, down on his chest, walking real slow towards me. And I took 2 or 3 steps forward and I stuck out my hand. Congratulations on conquering Mount Everest. Well, about that time, a sharp blow happened on the back of my neck. My daughter hit me in the back of the head. And her and Tom took off. Now, how she got from inside the house to behind me in less than a millisecond, I'll never understand that one. But it happened. Less than a millisecond. Well, anyways, we went to the beach, came home. I unpacked the van, walked into the house, and there's Tom. 2 plates, silverware, orange juice, coffee on the table. My daughter's cooking eggs, bacon, grits, and the toast. As I was standing there looking around, toast popped up. Now I looked at Tom and said, "I thought you were taking her out for breakfast." And Tom just looked at me and kind of didn't say nothing, just kind of looked at me. And I sat down, looked at Chris, and I said, "Hey, serve us, men." Well, Chris got mad, but she served us. We had eggs, bacon, and grits and toast. Regular, good old breakfast. Compliments from my daughter. Madder than hell. And shortly thereafter, Tom got out of the Marine Corps, and her and Chris went cross country to Oregon. Tom went back to his ex, and Chris ended up flying back home. I went down to Savannah and got her. But Chris apparently got an itch. I was retired now. And I was home one day having lunch, submarine sandwich. Chris is sitting across the table from me and tells me that she's got something to tell Mom and I. I looked at her and I said, "What?" And she says that she's pregnant. "No, you're not. You're on one of the days." "No, Dad, I'm pregnant." "No. You've been on one of the days since you've been 12 years old. Remember when I told you that I told the doctor I quit all pills?" And I said, "Yeah." "Well, I did. You quit all pills, including one of the days?" "Yep." "I'll prove your pregnancy." So she went back to the bedroom, came out, gave me this little white plastic thing that had a red square in it. And red means that you're pregnant. Well, I looked at that. Rick, Pam was in shock. The warden was in shock. Somebody broke out of the jail and brought shame to her kingdom. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I looked at Chris and I said, "Well, what you gonna do?" Because I'm not gonna be your babysitter. You got choices to make. You can have the baby and raise it without using your mother and I as babysitter, or you can give the baby up for adoption, or you can abort. Well, Chris gets up, picks up all her stuff, goes back to the bedroom. Pam could not even finish her meal. She just went back to her bedroom and slammed the door. Well, I'm sitting there about 10 minutes. Chris comes out and she goes, "Dad, we need to talk." And I looked at her and I said, "What?" And she goes, "I can't believe you want me to kill the baby." Whoa, 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 whoa. You're wrong. You're wrong. It's my job to give you the options. It's your job to decide which one, and I hope I raised you right that you will choose the right one. Well, which one do you want me to choose? Chris, I'm not going to make that decision for you, but it better not be to abort. Well, because we're still under the Navy and using their hospital, we went to a pregnancy thing. And I took my daughter to the pregnancy thing, and There were newlyweds there. There was about 10 of them. The doctor came out and sat down, and we're going to be a family. This doctor was we're all going to go through everybody's pregnancies and all this and that, and he blew it all up and out of proportion. He had us give our names all the way around. Well, it got to me, and I popped up and I says, well, my name is Gene. This is my daughter, Chris. And no, I'm not the father of her child. Everybody started chuckling. Well, anyways, Chris decided not to let the father know, which bothered me, because I go shrimping, I go fishing, I shrimp and fish with the boy and his father. But I had to keep my mouth shut. It's not my place to say it. And I've been talking to Chris about it. Well, Chris was about 6 months pregnant, and she invites the boy over for dinner. Well, the kids do dishes. Went out on the patio. Chris told the boy that he was the father. He comes into the house, walks into the living room, and starts yelling at me for not telling him the past 6 months. Well, I proceeded to tell him that she's over 18, she's an adult, and it's not my place. And if you don't keep your mouth shut and you don't apologize to me for the way you're talking, I'm going to bust your mouth open. Well, he apologized. He understood that it was not my place to tell him. Well, within a month, the divorce happened. Chris and Corey decided to go back to New York with Pam, so they went. And I made it home for the birth of Shelby. I went to the hospital with one of those store-bought, one-time use cameras and took the first pictures. And Chris asked me to stop by and give the pictures to the parents, which I did. And they've been friends of mine for years and years. But the boy had no say concerning Shelby. Chris didn't like the boy. She just had an itch and decided to use him to scratch her itch. That's the only way I can look at it. But anyways, you know, things just progress. And I went home for my dad's 80th birthday. I had a big party. I seen my son and daughter there. My daughter wouldn't have anything to do with me. Nothing. She wouldn't even allow me to give her a hug. Now Shelby did. I had a little present for Shelby and gave it to her. I think it was a bunny rabbit. But Shelby gave me a hug. Chris wanted nothing to do with me. Next time I saw Chris was at Mom's funeral. I'm standing there, you know, because you got to stand there and everybody's got to come by and stand in front of you. Well, this woman is standing in front of me telling me that sorry about your loss. And I looked at her and I didn't recognize her. Asked her who she was. Chris looked at me and says, I'm your daughter. Wow. Okay. No, thank you. She gave me a hug for the first time. I believe she's a banker down in Atlanta. She moved out of New York, which I think is the smartest thing that she ever did. Because I still don't like New York. Something about that state just irks me. Anyway, I'm just remembering all this. But, like I said before, I believe all families are alike. But you gotta have a sense of humor with everything. Everything's gotta have a sense of humor involved in it. So with that, I'm gonna close this and get it on YouTube. Someday all my family's gonna see this and realize that I'm a human with a beard and a flat top. So, with that, everybody have a very Merry Easter, and may God bless. Wait a minute. Yep. Bye.